So, hey everyone, welcome to my session, Knowing How Diversity Drives Revenue. My name is Michelle Ngome. So, I have a lot of slides that I need to go over in a short amount of time, and you will get a copy of this presentation afterwards. So, a little bit about me, been doing marketing for a while. I have my company Line 25 Consulting, where I work with cause-based organizations on inclusive marketing strategies. 2019, I started the African American Marketing Association to help Black marketers with resources for their career and business. And then earlier this year, I joined the startup Dance Card. All right, so we're going to talk about money, right? We love money. I'm sure our companies like it when we can make them money. So we're going to talk about revenue, the buying power of Black people, Indigenous people, people of color, diverse communities. I also call them communities of color. Developing that audience, the language of inclusion. I'm going to give you a few examples, and then we're going to close out talking about teams. Now, lots of times when we talk about D&I, we think it's HR's responsibility. But as a marketer, talking to marketers, I want to come from a marketing perspective. So, how many of you know that when we think about all of the Blacks in America, Asians, Latinas in America, that they have a buying power of $3.2 trillion? Did you know that? Now, if we were to add some other communities, it's easy to reach $5 trillion, right? So, as you can see, LGBTQ globally is nearly $4 trillion. Neurodiversity is at 31 billion. And of course, Muslim Americans, Middle Easterns. What is your company doing to tap into that demographic? Because it's only going to increase from here, and 2023 is around the corner. So, what is inclusive marketing? Inclusive marketing is about creating marketing efforts that represent diverse communities that your company serves. So, who are the people in your group? Excuse me, who are the people that your company's already serving that you're not aware of? So, this is a range of diverse communities. It's easy to go to race because that's visible, we can see that. But what about gender? What about age, generation, millennial, Gen Z? What about first generation Americans, right? Latinos, LGBTQ, our veterans? What are some of the other communities that you can tap into? Now, look, we're all marketers, so I'm not going to spend time on target audience and all this kind of stuff. But I want to challenge you, what can you do to replicate that target audience and take it a step further for you to reach these communities of color? So according to Yahoo, they said 54% of people like personalized ads. When I see a personalized ad, I can take ownership. It's more engaging. If I hear my name, you got my ear, you have my attention, right? McKinsey says if you have a tailored ad, an effective campaign, your sales can increase by at least 10%. Once again, who likes to make more money? So I get asked a lot of times, it's like, okay, well, how am I going to find the voice of this new community I should tap into? It's just a little bit of work, right? What's being said on social media? What are some of your Google reviews, Yelp reviews, any reviews, right? Even Indeed, Glassdoor, like what are people saying about your brand? If you already have a small audience within your target, can you send a survey? Can you do a focus group? And the reason why knowing and understanding your feedback is important is because people want to feel like they belong, right? Belonging creates language, the language of inclusion. Language demonstrates how we navigate the world, the workplace, and our brand. How are you communicating? Is your communication aligned with your brand values based off of clear, concise, credible, compelling statements? And is that translated well to your audience, to your consumers? We have to be intentional in our messaging. So I know over the past couple of years, we have definitely got acclimated to pronouns, being gender neutral, being open and affirming. Some other things that I myself am learning is mental health, right? Staying, that's not, or saying, or avoiding making the statements of crazy, because you don't know whose mental health conditions we might be, you know, kind of messing with. Also, avoiding slang or acronyms or making sure that you use it in the right way. We don't want to be like Pepsi. So if we so if we look back a couple of years, unfortunately, the lady on the right, she was protesting. She was arrested during a peaceful protest, and Pepsi thought they could spin it in such a way that it would be positive. They spent $5 million on this campaign only to receive backlash. And the reason why they received that backlash is because of cultural appropriation, misappropriation, right? And then there's rainbow washing when it comes to the LGBTQ community. So you want to make sure that you're doing your research to avoid these things, and that way you're communicating effectively to this new audience that you want to attract. Right. So I love giving examples because it makes it practical. So here we go. So we have Coca-Cola. I forgot to bring my Coke bottle, but they've been doing this campaign for years. And if you go to the website, you can even buy a personalized Coke and you can customize it. Once again, it shows ownership, right? Belonging. It's an effective campaign that could be that you can use for yourself or that you can gift it to other people. Right? Victoria's Secrets. So I love using this example because Victoria's Secrets has been in business for 43 years. They have hundreds of stores. And at the end of 2018, 2019, they were approaching about $1 billion market cap, right? That year, the CMO, Ed Razik, made some negative comments. He was like, we're never going to have pregnant women, plus size women, or transgender women in our fashion show. That's not what they're going to do. Twitter, social media had a field day, a bunch of backlash. Meanwhile, that same year, Rihanna, a black woman, started Savage X Fenty. And I do have to give her some credit as a black woman. I do think, or a black person or a person of color, it is a bit easier to identify areas when diversity, equity, inclusion is necessary. And because of that, she has a very inclusive line, an inclusive campaign where she has men, plus size people, right, transgender, people of all colors, shapes, and sizes. And can you believe in 3 years of business, she's already worth $1 billion? So think about it. You have Victoria's Secret's 43-year-old traditional company just scratching the surface of $1 billion. And then you have Savage X Fenty 3 years and is at $1 billion. And I know there's a lot of other variables that go into that, but there's something to think about because there's something to think about when it comes to creating inclusive campaigns. So what happened? Victoria's Secret had to go back to the drawing board. The CMO resigned. They appointed 2 women as board directors, and they hired more inclusive models. And from there, earlier this year, June, July, now their market cap is between $2 to $3 billion. That's the power of inclusivity. All right, so that example is more of competitors, right? So let's take a look at Peloton. In 2019, Peloton had a campaign, the one at the bottom picture with the lady, where the husband gives the Peloton to the wife, and she's going through, I don't want to work out, like, thank you for the gift, but I don't want to work out. And you see her going through this transformation. On the surface, it seems like a very good commercial. Unfortunately, there is a ton of backlash. But this is when social media is used to your advantage. Peloton saw all of the feedback, all of the negative remarks, all of the media. They went back to the drawing board. And instead of hiring an actor or actors, they hired actual Peloton consumers and created an inclusive campaign, and their sales skyrocketed more than 20% that year or during that campaign run. That's the power of inclusive marketing. So why do we need to create, why do we need to create inclusive marketing teams? There's a lot I can say. I do think when there's mistakes like that, I often wonder who's at the table, right? Simply put, Generation Z is the most racially and ethnically diverse generation. So one thing Gary Vee said years ago that I remember, he said social media ages up, right? It's the young consumers and then it goes up. I think this is the same thing that we're dealing with in America, be it corporate, startup, whatever, politics, whatever the case may be. I think this is what we're experiencing right now. Everyone is experiencing this Gen Z coming into the workforce, becoming adults in the society, and they're shaking stuff up, right? So are you, as a company, are you going to become more inclusive? Are you going to be welcoming to these practices? And the last thing I can say is if you don't have an inclusive marketing strategy, you don't have a growth strategy. If you don't have an inclusive marketing strategy, you don't have a growth strategy. So when I talk to companies, I really believe that your message is going to four people, or four groups of people: candidates, your coworkers, consumers, whether B2B or B2C, and your community. So how are you communicating? How are you marketing to these people? Who hears you? That's going to allow for you to increase your revenue through an inclusive marketing strategy. So that's my presentation. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Also support the African American Marketing Association by following us on social media. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.